I decided to surprise my son and pick him up early from private school. At the gate, the principal barred my entry. When I said I was the father, she smiled with pity. "Sir, his father is already here. He's in the yard playing with the happy family." She pointed to my personal trainer hugging my wife. So I decided to play along. "I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Glenn, and I thought I had everything figured out. At 56, I believed I was living the American dream, a successful consulting business, a beautiful home in the suburbs, a wife who still turned heads, and an 8-year-old son who was my entire world. I thought I knew what happiness looked like until that Tuesday afternoon when everything I believed about my life shattered into 1,000 pieces. It started as such an ordinary day. I had finished my client meetings earlier than expected and decided to surprise Tommy by picking him up from Riverside Academy myself. Anna usually handled school pickup since my schedule was more demanding, but I wanted to be the dad who showed up unexpectedly, the one who made his son's face light up with joy. The drive to the school felt different that day, filled with anticipation. I was already imagining Tommy's excited expression when he saw me waiting by the gate instead of Anna. Maybe we could stop for ice cream or throw the baseball around in the backyard before dinner. These small moments had become precious to me, especially since I'd been traveling more for work lately. Riverside Academy sat on perfectly manicured grounds, the kind of private school that cost $30,000 a year and promised to shape future leaders. The red brick buildings and pristine lawns screamed privilege, and I was proud that I could provide this for Tommy. Every dollar I invested in his education felt like a promise for his future. I parked near the main entrance and walked toward the security gate, my mood light. Parents were already gathering, designer handbags and luxury cars creating the familiar tapestry of our social circle. I nodded to a few familiar faces, feeling that comfortable sense of belonging that comes with being part of an established community. That's when I saw Mrs. Henderson, the school principal, approaching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. She was a stern woman in her early 60s, the type who commanded respect from both children and parents alike. Her gray hair was pulled back in its usual tight bun, and her navy blazer was immaculate, as always. "Mr. Morrison," she said, her voice carrying an odd note of confusion as she blocked my path to the gate. "I'm sorry, but I can't allow you onto the school grounds right now." I stopped mid-stride, completely bewildered. "Excuse me? I'm here to pick up my son, Tommy Morrison. He's in Mrs. Garcia's third-grade class." Mrs. Henderson's expression shifted to something that looked almost like pity. She glanced over her shoulder toward the playground area, then back at me with those knowing eyes that seemed to see right through whatever facade she thought I was maintaining. "Sir," she said gently, as if speaking to someone who might be confused or unstable, "Tommy's father is already here. He's been here for 20 minutes playing with him in the courtyard. They make quite the happy family." My mind went completely blank. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "I am Tommy's father, Glenn Morrison. I've been coming to this school for 3 years." Mrs. Henderson's smile became even more patronizing. She gestured toward the playground area beyond the main building. "Perhaps you should see for yourself before we continue this conversation." My legs felt unsteady as I followed her gaze. Through the chain-link fence that bordered the playground, I could see a small crowd of children playing, and there, clear as day, was my son Tommy, laughing as he hung from the monkey bars, but he wasn't alone. Standing beneath him, arms outstretched as if ready to catch him, was Marcus. My personal trainer, Marcus, wearing jeans and a casual polo shirt like he belonged there, like he was just another dad picking up his kid from school. And beside Marcus, her hand resting casually on his shoulder as she watched Tommy play, was Anna. My Anna. My wife of 12 years, looking more relaxed and genuinely happy than I had seen her in months. She was laughing at something Marcus had said, her whole face lit up in a way that made my chest tighten with recognition and terror. But what made my knees nearly buckle was how natural they looked together. Marcus wasn't just standing there awkwardly like a family friend might. He was engaged, calling out encouragement to Tommy, giving him tips on his form on the monkey bars, and Tommy was responding to him with the kind of enthusiasm and attention that I thought was reserved for me. "You see," Mrs. Henderson continued, her voice floating to me as if from a great distance, "Anna explained the situation to us several weeks ago. She said you two were separated and that Marcus would be helping with pickup duties. Quite honestly, Tommy seems much happier with this new arrangement. Children are so resilient when the adults in their lives handle transitions well. I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. Separated? When had Anna told them we were separated? We lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, had dinner together just last night. Tommy had hugged me goodbye that very morning before I left for my client meeting. There must be some mistake, I finally managed to croak out. Anna is my wife. We're not separated. I live at 1523 Maple Drive with both of them." Mrs. Henderson's expression grew more concerned now, as if she was dealing with someone who might be having a mental health crisis. "Sir, I think it would be best if you left the school grounds now. If you need to discuss custody arrangements, perhaps you should contact your attorney." Through the fence, I watched as Tommy finished on the monkey bars and ran straight to Marcus, who scooped him up in a bear hug that sent my son into fits of giggles. Anna moved closer to them, and for a moment the three of them formed a perfect family picture that didn't include me. Marcus ruffled Tommy's hair the same way I did. Anna looked at them both with maternal pride. And Tommy basked in their attention like this was the most natural thing in the world. "I need to go," I heard myself say, though I'm not sure Mrs. Henderson heard me. My voice sounded hollow, distant, like it was coming from someone else entirely. I walked back to my car in a daze, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. Behind me, I could still hear the faint sounds of children playing, of my son's laughter mixing with Marcus's encouraging voice and Anna's gentle responses. As I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, one thought kept circling through my mind like a vulture. How long had this been going on? How long had I been living a lie, thinking I was a husband and father while my wife and son had already moved on to someone else? But what terrified me most was the question I couldn't bring myself to answer. What else did I not know about my own life? I drove home in complete silence, my mind racing while my body operated on autopilot. The familiar streets of our neighborhood looked different somehow, as if I was seeing them through someone else's eyes. Every house, every tree, every corner that had been part of my daily routine for years now felt foreign and threatening. When I pulled into our driveway, I sat in the car for several minutes, staring at the house Anna and I had bought 8 years ago. The white colonial with black shutters and a wraparound porch had been her dream home. I had worked overtime for months to make the down payment, proud that I could give her everything she wanted. Now it felt like I was looking at a stage set for a play I didn't know I was acting in. I walked through the front door, and the familiar scents of our home vanilla candles and whatever expensive cleaning products Anna preferred hit me like a physical blow. Everything was exactly as I had left it that morning. Anna's coffee cup in the sink, Tommy's backpack hanging on the hook by the door, my reading glasses on the kitchen counter where I had forgotten them. But now I noticed things I had somehow missed before. Marcus's protein shaker bottle on the kitchen counter, a second set of car keys on the hook next to Anna's, a men's jacket hanging in our coat closet that definitely wasn't mine. My hands were trembling as I opened the jacket and checked the pockets, a gym membership card with Marcus's name on it, receipts from restaurants Anna and I had never been to together, and a small strip of photo booth pictures of Anna and Marcus, laughing and kissing like teenagers. I sank into one of our kitchen chairs, the photo strip still in my hands, and tried to process what I was seeing. The pictures looked recent. Anna's hair was styled the way she had been wearing it for the past few months. In one photo, she was wearing the blue sweater I had bought her for her birthday just 6 weeks ago. My phone buzzed with a text message. Anna. "Running late today. Taking Tommy to Marcus's place for dinner. We'll be home around 8. Love you." Love you. She signed it, "Love you," while she was planning to spend the evening with another man and our son. The casual cruelty of it made my stomach churn. I looked at the time. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. Anna thought I was still at my client meeting, which meant I had over 3 hours before they expected me home. 3 hours to figure out what my life had actually become. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, each step feeling heavier than the last. Our bedroom had always been Anna's domain. She had decorated it in soft grays and whites, with expensive linens and carefully chosen artwork. I had always felt slightly out of place there, like a guest in a luxury hotel. Now I understood why. I opened Anna's nightstand drawer, something I had never done in 12 years of marriage. Inside, beneath her usual collection of hand cream and sleeping pills, I found a small leather journal. My hands shook as I opened it. The entries went back 6 months. 6 months of detailed accounts of her relationship with Marcus. Not just the physical aspects, though those were described in painful detail, but her feelings, her plans, her growing disgust with me and our marriage. "Glenn is so predictable," one entry read. "Same routine every day, same conversations about work, same boring life. Marcus makes me feel alive again. When I'm with him, I remember who I used to be before I became just Glenn's wife." Another entry, dated just 2 weeks ago. "Tommy asked if Marcus could come to his school's father-son breakfast next month. I told him I'd ask Marcus, not Glenn. Glenn won't even notice he wasn't invited. He never pays attention to school events anyway." I had to stop reading. The journal slipped from my hands and fell to the floor, pages fluttering open to reveal more months of betrayal and contempt. But I forced myself to continue. I needed to know everything. The entries revealed that Marcus had been coming to our house regularly when I was at work. Anna had given him a key 3 months ago. He had been sleeping in our bed, eating meals at our kitchen table, helping Tommy with his homework, and tucking him in at night. According to Anna's journal, Tommy had started calling Marcus Dad when they were alone together. She found it sweet and natural. She wrote about how Marcus was more patient with Tommy than I was, how he understood child development better because he had studied exercise science in college. "Glenn tries so hard to be a good father." One particularly cruel entry read, "But he doesn't have Marcus's natural instincts. Yesterday, Tommy scraped his knee in the backyard and Glenn just put a bandage on it. When I told Marcus about it later, he said he would have checked for signs of infection and taught Tommy how to properly clean a wound. That's the difference between them." I closed the journal and sat on the edge of our bed, looking around the room with new eyes. The decorative pillows were arranged differently than I remembered. There was a second charging cable on Marcus's side of the bed. Wait, Marcus's side of the bed. When had I started thinking of it that way? I walked to the closet and opened Anna's side. Behind her dresses, pushed toward the back, were men's clothes that weren't mine. Expensive workout gear, casual shirts, even a suit I had never seen before. Everything was in Marcus's size. My phone rang, startling me out of my paralysis. The caller ID showed Marcus's name. My finger hovered over the decline button, but something made me answer. "Hey, buddy." Marcus's familiar voice came through the speaker, cheerful and casual. "Just wanted to give you a heads up that Anna and Tommy are with me. We're grabbing dinner and maybe catching a movie. Hope that's cool with you." I found my voice somehow. "Of course, have fun." "Thanks, man. Anna said you've been working crazy hours lately. You really should take better care of yourself, you know? Tommy needs his dad healthy and present." The concern in his voice sounded so genuine, so caring, like he really was worried about my well-being, like he wasn't sleeping with my wife and playing father to my son. "I appreciate that," I managed to say. "No problem. Oh, and hey, Anna mentioned you guys might be looking at upgrading your home gym. I've got some great ideas if you want to run them by me. Maybe we could grab a beer sometime this weekend and talk about it." A beer? He wanted to grab a beer with me to discuss upgrading the home gym where he probably worked out with my wife every morning while I was at the office. "That sounds great, Marcus. Let's definitely do that." "Awesome. Well, I better go. Tommy wants to show me some new trick he learned on the playground equipment. Kids these days, right? So much energy." He hung up and I stood there holding my phone, staring at our bedroom that no longer felt like mine. That's when I realized something that chilled me to the bone. Marcus wasn't being cruel or vindictive. His concern for me, his friendliness, his casual updates about my family all seemed completely genuine, which meant one of two things. Either Marcus was the most skilled manipulator I had ever encountered, or Anna had lied to him about our marriage just as completely as she had lied to me about their relationship. Either way, I was no longer just dealing with my wife's betrayal. I was dealing with something much more complicated and dangerous. And as I looked around our bedroom, seeing Marcus's clothes in our closet and evidence of their life together in every corner, I realized that I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing everything I thought I knew about who I was. I spent the next 3 hours methodically going through every corner of our house, and what I found made my discovery at the school look like a minor deception. Anna hadn't just been having an affair, she had been systematically erasing me from our life together while using my money to build a new life with Marcus. The first real shock came when I checked our joint bank account on my phone. Over the past 6 months, there had been regular withdrawals of $500 to $800, always on days when I was traveling for work. The descriptions were vague. Personal expenses, household needs, family activities. But when I cross-referenced them with Anna's journal entries, a clear pattern emerged. Every withdrawal corresponded with an entry about something she had bought for Marcus or an activity they had done together with Tommy. The $800 withdrawal from 3 weeks ago had paid for Marcus's new gym membership at an upscale fitness center across town. The $600 from last month had covered a weekend camping trip that Anna had told me was a girls' weekend with her sister. But it was the larger amounts that really made my blood run cold. $1,500 had been withdrawn to cover Marcus's car insurance and registration fees for the BMW he drove. $2,000 had gone toward the security deposit for what Anna's journal described as Marcus's apartment, a place where she and Tommy spent their afternoons while I worked. I opened my laptop and accessed our credit card statements, dreading what I might find. The evidence was all there, hidden in plain sight among normal family expenses. Charges at expensive restaurants on evenings when Anna claimed she was home with Tommy, having quiet nights in. Hotel charges for weekend getaways that I thought Anna was taking with her sister. Even charges for family activities at museums and amusement parks that I had never been invited to join. The most damning evidence was a charge for $3,200 to a jewelry store. The date was just 2 weeks after our anniversary, when Anna had told me she didn't want anything expensive because we were saving for Tommy's college fund. According to her journal, that money had bought Marcus a Rolex watch for his birthday. I sat back in my desk chair, staring at months of financial evidence that painted a picture I couldn't deny. Anna hadn't just been cheating on me, she had been stealing from me to fund their relationship. Every romantic dinner, every weekend trip, every expensive gift that had made Marcus feel special and loved had come from my bank account. But the financial betrayal was nothing compared to what I discovered next. I found a folder in Anna's desk drawer labeled Legal Documents. Inside were papers I had never seen before, including a consultation agreement with a divorce attorney dated 4 months ago. But these weren't just exploratory papers. Anna had been actively planning to leave me and had been building a case for why she should get everything. The attorney's notes, written in professional legal language, outlined Anna's strategy. She planned to claim that I was an absent father and emotionally unavailable husband who had forced her to find emotional support elsewhere. Marcus would be presented as a family friend who had stepped in to help when I failed to meet my responsibilities. There were character witness statements that Anna had apparently been collecting for months. Her sister had signed an affidavit claiming that I was workaholic who put career success above family needs. Her best friend from yoga class had provided a statement saying that Anna often confided in her about feeling lonely and neglected in her marriage. Most shocking of all was a statement from Tommy's teacher at Riverside Academy. Mrs. Garcia had noted that Tommy frequently mentions Marcus in a paternal context and seems to have a stronger emotional connection with him than with his biological father, who rarely attends school events or shows interest in Tommy's academic progress. I read that line 3 times, feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. I had missed school events, that was true, but only because Anna had told me they conflicted with my work schedule. I had asked her to record Tommy's school plays and parent conferences, trusting her to keep me involved. Now I realized she had been deliberately scheduling my work travel to coincide with important events, then using my absence as evidence of my inadequacy as a father. But the legal documents revealed something even more sinister. Anna's attorney had advised her to establish Marcus as a psychological parent to Tommy before filing for divorce. The strategy was to create such a strong emotional bond between Marcus and Tommy that a judge would be reluctant to disrupt it, especially if Anna could prove that I was an unreliable father figure. I found a timeline in Anna's handwriting that laid out their plan with calculating precision. Phase 1 had involved introducing Marcus as a friend and fitness coach, allowing him to gradually spend more time with our family. Phase 2 had been establishing Marcus as a regular presence in Tommy's life, having him attend school events and help with homework while I was working. Phase 3, which they were apparently in the middle of, involved Marcus taking on more and more paternal responsibilities, while Anna documented every instance of my absence or perceived failure. The final phase would be filing for divorce, seeking full custody of Tommy, and requesting alimony and child support that would essentially fund Anna and Marcus's life together while portraying me as the absent father who owed them financial support. What made it even worse was that Anna had been documenting everything to support her case. There were photos of Marcus and Tommy together at baseball games, birthday parties, and family events that I didn't even know had happened. Screenshots of text messages where Tommy expressed excitement about spending time with Dad Marcus. Even recordings of phone calls where I had sounded tired or distracted when Tommy wanted to talk about his day. I found myself thinking about all the times over the past 6 months when I had felt like something was off in our marriage. Anna had been more distant, less interested in physical intimacy, often claiming she was too tired or stressed. When I suggested we spend more family time together, she would point out how busy my work schedule was and how important it was for me to focus on providing for our family's future. Now I understood that she had been pushing me away, deliberately, creating distance in our marriage while building intimacy with Marcus. Every time I tried to be more present in Tommy's life, Anna would find reasons why it wouldn't work. When I wanted to coach his little league team, she said the time commitment would interfere with my business development. When I suggested family vacations, she worried about the expense and encouraged me to take work trips instead that would advance my career. She had been systematically isolating me from my own family while presenting herself as the devoted single mother who was holding everything together despite her husband's neglect. The cruelest part was that I had genuinely believed I was being a good provider. Every extra hour I worked, every client I pursued, every business trip I took had been motivated by my desire to give Anna and Tommy the best life possible. I had sacrificed time with them in the short term because I thought I was building security for our future. But Anna had taken my dedication and twisted it into evidence of my failure as a husband and father. She had used my love for them against me, encouraging me to work harder and longer so she could spend more time building a new family with Marcus. I looked at the clock on my computer screen. It was 7:45. Anna and Tommy would be home in 15 minutes, probably full of stories about their wonderful evening with Marcus. Anna would kiss me hello and ask about my day, playing the role of the loving wife while secretly planning to destroy everything we had built together. But now I knew something she didn't know I knew, and for the first time since I had seen her with Marcus at the school, I felt something other than devastation. I felt rage. I heard Anna's car pull into the driveway at exactly 8 o'clock, just as she had promised. I quickly closed the laptop and put all the documents back exactly where I had found them, then positioned myself in the living room with a work file open on my lap, playing the role of the dedicated husband catching up on business while waiting for his family to come home. Tommy burst through the front door first, his face flushed with excitement. Dad, you should have seen the movie. Marcus says there's going to be a sequel and maybe we can all go see it together." Anna followed behind him, looking relaxed and genuinely happy in a way that sent a chill down my spine. She was carrying a bag from Tommy's favorite ice cream shop, and her hair was slightly messed up in the way it got when she laughed too hard. She looked like a woman who had just spent a perfect evening with people she loved. "Hi, honey," she said, crossing the room to kiss my cheek. Her lips felt cold against my skin. "How was your afternoon? Did you get caught up on the Patterson account?" I marveled at how easily the lie rolled off her tongue. She knew exactly where I had been that afternoon, what I had seen at the school and what Mrs. Henderson had told me. Yet here she was, asking about work with the same casual interest she had shown for the past 12 years. "It was fine," I said, closing the file and looking up at her. "How was your evening?" "Oh, it was wonderful," Anna said, settling onto the couch next to me. "Marcus took us to that new family restaurant on 5th Street, and then we caught the early showing of that animated movie Tommy's been wanting to see. Marcus is so good with kids, he really understands what makes them tick." Tommy nodded enthusiastically from where he was hanging his jacket in the closet. "Marcus says he might teach me how to rock climb this weekend. They have an indoor climbing wall at his gym, and he knows all the safety stuff because he used to teach it in college." "That sounds exciting," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "Marcus certainly seems to have a lot of time to spend with our family." Anna's expression didn't change, but I caught a flash of something wary in her eyes. "Well, he's between jobs right now, so he has some flexibility, and he really enjoys spending time with Tommy. It's sweet how naturally they connect." Between jobs. That was news to me. I had been under the impression that Marcus was a successful personal trainer with a full client roster, but if he was unemployed, that explained how he had so much time to spend playing house with my wife and son. It also explained why Anna had been so generous with my money to support his lifestyle. Tommy bounced into the living room, still buzzing with energy from his evening out. "Dad, can Marcus come to my school's science fair next Friday? He knows all about physics and stuff from when he was studying exercise science. He said he could help me understand how pulleys work for my project." I felt Anna tense slightly beside me. "We'll see, sweetheart. Your father might want to come to the science fair himself." It was a perfect trap. If I said yes, I wanted to attend, I would look like I was being possessive and trying to exclude Marcus from Tommy's life. If I said Marcus should go instead, I would be confirming that I was an absent father who didn't prioritize my son's activities. "Actually," I said carefully, "I'd love to come to the science fair. Maybe Marcus could help you with your project beforehand, and then we could both be there to see you present it." Tommy's face lit up with an excitement that made my heart break. "Really? Both of you? That would be so cool." Anna's smile looked forced now. "Of course, honey. I'm sure we can work something out." After Tommy went upstairs to get ready for bed, Anna and I sat in the living room making small talk about our respective days. She told me about a phone call with her sister, a problem with the landscaping company, and her plans for grocery shopping tomorrow. I shared updates about my client meetings and a potential new contract I was negotiating. It was the same comfortable domestic conversation we had shared thousands of times over the years, but now it felt like performance art. Every word was carefully chosen, every expression calculated. We were both actors playing roles, and the person we were really performing for was ourselves. When Anna went upstairs to tuck Tommy in, I heard their voices through the ceiling. Tommy was chattering excitedly about his evening, and Anna was making all the right motherly responses. But I also heard her tell him not to mention the movie to his father because Daddy's been working so hard lately and we don't want him to feel bad that he missed our fun evening. She was training our son to keep secrets from me, to protect her feelings by hiding the truth about their relationship with Marcus. Tommy, innocent and loving, was being turned into an accomplice in my own betrayal. I waited until Anna was in the shower before going upstairs to say goodnight to Tommy. He was already in bed, but his eyes were bright and alert. "Dad," he said as I sat down on the edge of his bed, "are you okay? You seemed sad when we got home." The question hit me like a physical blow. Even at 8 years old, Tommy was intuitive enough to sense that something was wrong. I wondered how much he understood about what was happening in our family, and how much Anna had prepared him for whatever came next. "I'm fine, buddy," I said, smoothing his hair back from his forehead. "Just tired from work. Did you have a good time tonight?" Tommy nodded enthusiastically. "Marcus is really fun, Dad. He taught me how to make the perfect paper airplane, and he knows all the words to the songs from my favorite video game, and he never checks his phone when we're talking, you know." That last comment stung because I recognized the criticism embedded in it. I did check my phone during conversations with Tommy, especially when work calls came in. I had always thought he was too young to notice or care, but apparently he had been paying attention. "I'm glad you had fun," I said, leaning down to kiss his forehead. "I love you, Tommy. You know that, right?" "I love you too, Dad. Maybe next time you can come with us. Marcus says the 4 of us would make a great team for laser tag. The 4 of us, not the 3 of us." Tommy was already thinking of Marcus as a permanent part of our family unit. I said goodnight and went to my own bedroom, where Anna was blow-drying her hair at the vanity. She was wearing the silk nightgown I had bought her for Christmas, and she looked beautiful in the soft lighting. For a moment I could almost pretend that everything was normal, that she was still the woman I had fallen in love with 14 years ago. But then I noticed the way she avoided eye contact in the mirror, and the careful way she arranged herself, so that her body language remained neutral and uninviting. She was sharing a bed with me while emotionally she was already living with another man. "Anna," I said, sitting down on my side of the bed, "can I ask you something?" She turned off the hairdryer and looked at me in the mirror. "Of course." "Do you think I'm a good father?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. She set down the dryer and turned to face me, her expression carefully composed. "Why would you ask that?" "I've been thinking about it lately. Working so much, missing some of Tommy's activities. I want to make sure I'm doing right by him." Anna's face softened, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the woman I had married. "Glenn, you're a wonderful father. You work hard to provide for us, and Tommy knows you love him. Don't be so hard on yourself." It was exactly the right thing to say, delivered with exactly the right amount of warmth and reassurance. But I knew now that she didn't mean a word of it. In her journal, in her legal documents, in her conversations with her attorney, she had painted me as a neglectful father who put work before family. "Sometimes I feel like Tommy and I aren't as close as we used to be," I continued, watching her face carefully. "Like maybe I've been too focused on business and not enough on being present." "Kids go through phases," Anna said, getting up from the vanity and crossing to her side of the bed. "Tommy's at an age where he's naturally drawn to male role models. It's actually healthy for him to have different masculine influences in his life." Masculine influences. She was talking about Marcus, encouraging me to see his presence in Tommy's life as beneficial rather than threatening. She was so skilled at this, so practiced at manipulating my perceptions and emotions. "You're right," I said. "Marcus does seem to be good with him." Anna smiled, and I could see her relax slightly. "He really is. Sometimes I think Marcus understands children better than most people, because he approaches them without any ego or agenda. He just genuinely enjoys their company." She climbed into bed beside me, and for the first time in months she moved closer, instead of maintaining careful distance. Her hand found mine under the covers, and she squeezed it gently. "You're a good man, Glenn," she said softly, "and you're a good father. Don't let work stress make you question that." Lying there in the dark, holding hands with my wife while she comforted me about my adequacy as a father, I realized that Anna wasn't just betraying me. She was systematically destroying my confidence in my relationship with my son while making me grateful for her support. But now I knew what she was doing, and tomorrow I was going to start doing something about it. The next morning I got up an hour earlier than usual and drove to my attorney's office before Anna was even awake. James Richardson had been handling my business legal needs for over a decade, and I trusted him implicitly. When I called him at 6:30 in the morning asking for an emergency meeting, he agreed to see me at 7:15 before his regular office hours began. James listened without interruption as I laid out everything I had discovered. I showed him photos of Anna's journal entries, copies of the financial records, and pictures of the legal documents I had found in her desk. His expression grew more serious with each piece of evidence. "Glenn," he said when I finished, "this is one of the most calculated cases of marital deception I've seen in 25 years of practice. Your wife has been planning this for months, maybe longer." "What are my options?" I asked. "She's already established Marcus as a father figure to Tommy, and she has documentation showing that I've been absent for important events. Can she actually get full custody?" James leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled as he considered the situation. "Under normal circumstances, she might have a strong case, but she's made several critical mistakes. First, she's been using your money to fund her relationship with Marcus without your knowledge or consent. That's financial fraud within the marriage. Second, she's been deliberately excluding you from parenting decisions and school events while documenting your absence as evidence of neglect. A good judge will see through that manipulation." He pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. "Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to document everything from your perspective. You're going to start attending every single school event, volunteering for field trips, coaching Little League if possible. We need to establish that you're an engaged father who has been systematically excluded, not an absent father who chose work over family. Second," he continued, "we're going to set up separate bank accounts and credit cards immediately. You need to protect your assets and establish financial independence before she realizes you know about her plans. We'll also set up a trust for Tommy's college fund that she can't access. But most importantly," James said, looking me directly in the eyes, "we're going to investigate Marcus. If Anna is planning to present him as Tommy's psychological parent, we need to know everything about him. His employment history, his financial situation, his background, any potential red flags that would make a judge question his suitability as a parental figure." I spent the rest of the morning setting up new financial accounts and meeting with a private investigator James recommended. By noon, I had essentially created a parallel financial life that Anna knew nothing about. I also hired the investigator to conduct a thorough background check on Marcus and to document the extent of his involvement in my family's daily routine. But the most important thing I did that morning was call Tommy's school and request a meeting with Mrs. Garcia, his teacher. I told her I was concerned that work had been keeping me too busy to stay involved in Tommy's academic progress, and I wanted to schedule regular check-ins and volunteer for upcoming activities. Mrs. Garcia seemed surprised by my sudden interest, which confirmed that Anna had been portraying me as an uninvolved father. But she was happy to accommodate my requests, and by the end of our meeting I was signed up to help with the upcoming science fair, volunteer for a field trip to the Science Museum, and attend the monthly parent-teacher conferences that I apparently had been missing for the past year. When I asked Mrs. Garcia about Marcus's involvement in Tommy's school life, her response was illuminating. "Oh yes, Anna's friend Marcus has been very helpful," she said. "He's attended several events when Anna mentioned you were traveling for work. Tommy speaks about him quite fondly. It's nice that Anna has such good support during busy periods in your schedule." The way she phrased it made it clear that Anna had been presenting Marcus as a helpful family friend, not as a romantic partner. Mrs. Garcia had no idea that she was witnessing the systematic replacement of a father by his wife's lover. I spent the afternoon at work, but for the first time in months I left the office at exactly 5 o'clock. When I got home, Anna was in the kitchen preparing dinner while Tommy did homework at the kitchen table. "You're home early," Anna said, and I could hear a note of surprise and slight concern in her voice. "I realized I've been working too much lately," I said, kissing Tommy on top of his head before sitting down next to him. "I want to spend more time with my family. What are you working on, buddy?" Tommy looked up from his math worksheet with genuine surprise and pleasure. "Dad, I'm doing multiplication problems. They're really hard, but Marcus taught me a trick yesterday that makes them easier." "Show me," I said, pulling my chair closer to his. For the next hour, I helped Tommy with his homework, asking questions about his school day and showing genuine interest in his answers. Anna watched from the kitchen, and I could see her growing unease as Tommy responded enthusiastically to my attention. During dinner, I asked about the upcoming science fair and told Tommy I was excited to see his project. His face lit up with an excitement that made my heart ache. "Really? You're going to come?" he asked. "Of course I'm going to come. I wouldn't miss it. And I talked to Mrs. Garcia today about volunteering for your field trip to the Science Museum next month. I hope you don't mind having your old dad tag along." Tommy practically bounced in his chair. "That's so cool. Wait until I tell Marcus. He's going to be so excited that you're coming too." Anna's smile looked strained. "That's wonderful, Glenn. I'm sure Tommy appreciates having both of his father figures there to support him." Father figures. She was still trying to normalize Marcus's role while diminishing mine. After dinner, while Anna was cleaning up, I took Tommy upstairs to help him get ready for bed. As we went through his evening routine, I asked him about Marcus in a casual, non-threatening way. "You really like spending time with Marcus, don't you?" I said as Tommy brushed his teeth. He nodded enthusiastically. "He's really fun, Dad, and he knows so much cool stuff. He taught me how to tie different kinds of knots, and he knows all about rock climbing and camping. He said maybe we could go camping together sometime, all four of us." "That sounds like fun," I said. "How often do you see Marcus?" Tommy thought for a moment. "Almost every day when I get home from school. Sometimes he helps me with homework, and sometimes we play video games or throw the football in the backyard. Mom says he likes to help out because he doesn't have kids of his own." Almost every day. Marcus had been in my house playing with my son almost every single day for months, and I had been completely unaware of it. "Does Marcus sleep over sometimes?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Tommy nodded. "Sometimes when you're traveling for work. He sleeps in the guest room, and then he makes really good pancakes for breakfast. He taught me how to flip them without breaking them." The guest room. Anna had been bringing Marcus into our house when I was away, letting him sleep over and play house with our family. Tommy thought it was normal because Anna had presented it as a helpful friend staying over to keep them company while Daddy was away on business. That night, after Anna fell asleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling and thinking about everything I had learned. Anna had orchestrated this betrayal with remarkable skill and patience. She had gradually introduced Marcus into Tommy's life as a friend and helper, slowly increasing his presence and importance, while simultaneously engineering situations that kept me away from important family moments. But she had underestimated me. She thought I was too busy, too trusting, too comfortable in my routine to notice what she was doing. She had counted on my dedication to providing for our family to keep me distracted while she built a new family without me. What she didn't realize was that my business success had taught me how to recognize manipulation and strategic planning. I had spent years negotiating with people who were trying to gain advantage over me, and I had learned how to be patient, methodical, and strategic in my responses. Anna thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. But now that I understood the game, I was going to show her that she wasn't the only one who could plan ahead. The private investigator called me the next afternoon with his preliminary findings about Marcus. What he told me changed everything. Marcus had been unemployed for 8 months, not just between jobs as Anna had claimed. He had been fired from his last position as a trainer at an upscale fitness center for inappropriate relationships with married female clients. Before that, he had been let go from 2 other gyms for similar reasons. But most importantly, Marcus had a pattern. He targeted married women with successful husbands and young children, gradually inserting himself into their lives as a helpful friend before manipulating them into emotional and financial dependence. In his previous relationship, he had convinced a woman to leave her husband and move in with him, using her divorce settlement to support his lifestyle for 2 years before moving on to his next target. Anna wasn't Marcus's first victim. She was his latest mark in a pattern of calculated manipulation that he had been perfecting for years. When I realized that both Anna and I were being manipulated by the same man, everything changed. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. This was about protecting my son from a predator who saw our family as nothing more than an opportunity for financial and emotional exploitation. 3 weeks later, I was sitting across from Anna and Marcus in my attorney's office, watching their carefully constructed world crumble around them. The meeting had been my idea, presented to Anna as an opportunity for us to discuss our family situation like mature adults, before making any irreversible decisions about our marriage. Anna had brought Marcus for emotional support, exactly as I had hoped she would. She had no idea that James had spent those 3 weeks building an airtight case that would protect both Tommy and me from the elaborate deception they had orchestrated. "Thank you both for coming," James began, his voice professionally neutral. "Glenn has asked me to facilitate this conversation because he believes there are some misunderstandings about the situation that need to be cleared up before anyone makes permanent decisions about their family." Anna sat rigidly in her chair, her hand clasped tightly in Marcus's. She was wearing the blue dress I had complimented her on just that morning, and her makeup was perfect. She looked like a woman prepared for battle, confident in her position and strategy. Marcus, by contrast, seemed uncomfortable. His eyes darted around the office, and I could see a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Something about being in a lawyer's office was making him nervous, which told me that James's investigation had probably uncovered more than we had initially expected. "I'm not sure what kind of misunderstandings Glenn thinks exist," Anna said, her voice steady but with an edge of defiance. "Our marriage has been over emotionally for months. We've simply been trying to handle the transition in a way that's best for Tommy." "I understand that's your perspective," James said, opening a thick folder on his desk. "But before we discuss the future, I think it's important to establish some facts about the recent past. Glenn has discovered some information that raises questions about how this transition has been managed." He pulled out the first document and slid it across the desk. It was a summary of all the unauthorized withdrawals from our joint accounts over the past 6 months, totaling over $18,000. "Anna, can you explain these expenditures? They're all coded as household or family expenses, but Glenn has no record of corresponding purchases or activities." Anna glanced at the papers, and I saw her face pale slightly. But Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest and concerned. "Those were for legitimate family activities," he said. "Anna told me Glenn was so busy with work that she had to handle all the family planning herself. I helped out sometimes, but everything was for Tommy's benefit." James nodded sympathetically. "I'm sure your intentions were good, Marcus, but legally these withdrawals constitute financial fraud within the marriage. Anna had no right to use marital funds to support someone outside the family without Glenn's knowledge or consent." "Marcus isn't outside the family," Anna snapped, her composure cracking slightly. "He's been more of a father to Tommy in the past 6 months than Glenn has been all year." That's when James pulled out the second set of documents. "Actually, Anna, that raises some interesting questions. We've done some research into Marcus's background, particularly his history with other families." Marcus went completely still, his face draining of color. Anna looked confused, glancing between James and Marcus with growing alarm. "Marcus," James continued, "would you like to tell Anna about Jennifer Morrison, or Patricia Chen, or Sandra Williams?" I watched Marcus's face as James recited the names, and I saw the exact moment when he realized his carefully constructed persona was about to collapse. His mouth opened, then closed, and he seemed to shrink into his chair. "I don't know what you're talking about," Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. James pulled out a third folder, this one much thicker than the first two. "These are the court records from 3 different divorce proceedings where you were named as a contributing factor to the breakdown of the marriage. In each case, you followed the same pattern. Befriend a married woman with a successful husband and young children, gradually insert yourself into the family dynamic. Encourage the woman to see her husband as inadequate, then position yourself as the superior alternative." Anna's head snapped toward Marcus, her eyes wide with shock. "What is he talking about?" In Jennifer Morrison's case, James continued, you convinced her to leave her husband and move in with you. You lived off her divorce settlement for 2 years before disappearing with another woman. Patricia Chen lost her house and her children because you encouraged her to make financial decisions that benefited you but left her in bankruptcy. Sandra Williams is still paying off debt you accumulated in her name. The silence in the room was deafening. Anna stared at Marcus with growing horror, while Marcus seemed to be calculating his options for escape. Anna, I said quietly, you're not his girlfriend, you're his job. That's when Marcus made his fatal mistake. Instead of trying to deny the allegations or defend his actions, he turned on Anna with sudden, vicious anger. This is your fault, he snarled at her. You were supposed to handle your husband quietly. You said he was too busy and too trusting to notice anything. You promised me this would be simple. Anna recoiled as if he had slapped her. Marcus, what are you saying? I'm saying you were a means to an end, just like the others. Did you really think I cared about you? You're a 40-year-old suburban housewife with a kid. I was playing a role, and you fell for it completely. The cruelty in his voice was shocking, but what devastated Anna even more was the casual way he dismissed everything she thought they had shared. She had genuinely believed that Marcus loved her and Tommy, that they were building something real together. But you said you loved me, she whispered, tears starting to flow down her cheeks. You said Tommy was like the son you always wanted. Marcus laughed, and the sound was cold and bitter. I say a lot of things. It's called manipulation, Anna. I told you what you needed to hear to get what I wanted. That's when Anna broke down completely. The composed, calculating woman who had planned to destroy my life dissolved into someone lost and confused and utterly betrayed. She had gambled everything on a man who saw her as nothing more than a financial opportunity. Anna, I said, and my voice was gentler than she deserved, I know you plan to leave me. I know you've been working with an attorney, but Marcus isn't who you think he is, and this isn't what you think it is. She looked at me through her tears, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Vulnerability. James pulled out the final folder. Anna, we know about your legal consultation and your strategy to claim Glenn was an unfit father, but now that you understand Marcus's true nature, I think you need to consider whether you really want to continue down that path. Here's what's going to happen, I said, taking control of the conversation. Anna, you're going to end your relationship with Marcus immediately. You're going to get counseling to understand how you were manipulated, and you're going to work with me to rebuild our family, not for my sake, but for Tommy's. Anna wiped her eyes and looked at me with something that might have been hope. You would do that, after everything I've done? I'm doing it for Tommy, I said honestly. He needs stability and he needs both his parents, but this only works if you're completely honest about everything that happened and committed to making things right. Marcus stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Anna, don't listen to them. We can figure this out together. Sit down, Marcus, James said firmly. You're not going anywhere until we discuss restitution for the money you convinced Anna to steal from her husband. Over the next hour, we worked out an agreement. Marcus would leave our lives immediately and permanently. He would repay the $18,000 he had essentially stolen, though we all knew that was unlikely to happen given his financial situation. Most importantly, he would have no further contact with Tommy, and if he violated that condition, we would pursue criminal charges for fraud and child endangerment. Anna agreed to individual and marriage counseling. She would be completely transparent about her actions and work to rebuild trust with both Tommy and me. It wouldn't be easy and it might not work, but we were going to try. 6 months later, I was sitting in the bleachers at Tommy's Little League game, watching him pitch with the confidence and joy that had returned to his personality as our family healed. Anna sat beside me, and while our relationship was still fragile, we were rebuilding something real based on honesty rather than manipulation. Tommy struck out the final batter and his team erupted in celebration. He looked up into the stands, found us, and waved with the biggest smile I had ever seen. Anna waved back, tears in her eyes. He's happy, she said quietly. Yeah, I agreed. He is. Marcus had disappeared from our lives completely, probably moving on to his next target. But his manipulation had served an unexpected purpose. It had forced Anna and me to confront the problems in our marriage that had made her vulnerable to someone like him in the first place. We learned that Anna had felt neglected and unappreciated for years, but instead of talking to me about it, she had internalized her resentment until it made her susceptible to Marcus's calculated charm. I learned that my dedication to providing for our family had become an excuse for emotional absence, and that Tommy needed more than financial security from his father. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Anna and I would probably never have the marriage we had before, because that marriage had been built on assumptions and routines rather than genuine communication. But we were building something new, something more honest and more intentional. And Tommy, who had been the innocent victim of all our adult failures, was thriving in a family that finally put his needs first. As we walked to the car after the game, Tommy between us chattering excitedly about his pitching performance, I realized that sometimes the worst betrayal can lead to the most important truth. I had almost lost everything I thought mattered, but in fighting to save it, I had discovered what actually mattered. Not the perfect family I thought I had, but the real family I was willing to fight for.